Puffless is 50% amazing and powerful and compelling, and 50% diabolical, but with the best music. I'm really glad I don't give star ratings as a rule because I genuinely wouldn't know what to do with this episode. It's the third episode of the 27th season of The Simpsons, directed by Rob Oliver, and I'll get in with the main narrative in a moment, but the subplot, which had far too much screen time, involves Maggie's extraordinary animal adventure, where she starts to communicate with a squirrel and then other animals, and it just escalates. And it just was so boring and so pointless, and I didn't care. And occasionally, when it was now and again, that was fine, but at one point it went on for what must have been at least 5 minutes. It may have been slightly less than that, but it was a good chunk of time. It wasn't just a way to cut between scenes and have the passage of time. It was actually meant to be the main focus in that moment, and it was so dull. However, the music in those segments, particularly with the bit that lasted quite a long time, I have to say was amazing. And we got Spider Pig and other songs, or instrumentals of other songs, and I really loved that. So I can't say I completely hated that part of it, but I did hate most of it. However, the main narrative I found to be really interesting. Everybody's gone to Jacqueline Bouvier's house, and today is the first day I realised the significance of the name Jacqueline Bouvier. I know I'm a little bit slow with that one. And when there, Mrs. Bouvier reveals how her husband, Paddy, Selma, and Marge's father, died, and he died of lung cancer. And Paddy and Selma vow then to both quit smoking. But they may be twins, but they don't have the same approach or attitudes or willpower. And I actually really enjoyed it. I used to say that I never liked Paddy and Selma, and that was very true for the beginning, for the earlier seasons of The Simpsons. But over the last few seasons, I've actually really taken to them as characters. In this episode, I really liked them. And I really felt for them because they obviously wanted to do the right thing. One found it more hard than the other. And I found it to be really interesting. And I'll discuss the ending in a moment. I have some thoughts on that. Maybe some contradictory thoughts on that. But I really liked it. And I thought it was addressing a really fantastic subject matter. And I also think the fact Paddy or Selma, I can't remember which one, but one of them made the very good point that by hiding the fact that their father had died from lung cancer, it took away their fear that the same thing could happen to them. You know, maybe if they knew that when they were younger, they might not have started smoking in the first place. I mean, that feels unlikely, but if you know that this horrible thing has happened to somebody you love, you might be less inclined to smoke, or you might find it slightly easier to give up smoking. So I think that was an interesting thing, and it could actually genuinely save somebody's life. This episode could save somebody's life, and I think that that's a pretty powerful thing. Even if it saves one person's life, I think that would be amazing. And I really enjoyed watching that part of the narrative unfold, and I'll discuss two things with a spoiler warning. One, I'll discuss the very ending, but also I'll discuss something else that happened that I thought was really, really moving. So, spoilers from now. And the thing that I thought was really moving was when the window was opened and we had that really sweet moment with Homer. And then the window was very quickly shut again, but I thought it worked really well and I really enjoyed it. And then the ending, honestly, part of me, as we were approaching the end, I was thinking, I wonder if that means we'll never see Paddy and Selma with cigarettes again. And it's unusual to get such strong character development in an episode of The Simpsons that would affect future episodes. And then when they started smoking again, I kind of thought, on the one hand, that's good because it means they'll be smoking in future episodes. We won't lose that, the characters, our personalities will stay the same. But at the same time, I thought, come on, you could have given somebody that little bit of hope that you can quit smoking for longer than a 22-minute episode. So I'm in two minds with how I feel about the episode's ending. For the characters, I think it was the right decision. Or they could have just made this non-canon like they do with certain other characters and school principals. But at the same time, for the message, I think it would have been better if they kept smoking. But having said that, the message could be don't start smoking because if you try to quit later on, it's going to be very difficult. So don't bother trying to start because trying to quit's even harder. So maybe you could look at it that way. I don't know. Either way, really thoroughly enjoyed that part of the narrative. It's rare that I love a Paddy and Selma themed episode. And this one I enjoyed. Maggie's extraordinary animal adventure was far from extraordinary. The music was good, but it's some of the worst subplot filler content I've seen in a while. But hooray for Puffless. I think it did a good thing with the messages, and as I said, even if it convinces one person to quit smoking or to not start smoking, if they'd maybe even been thinking about it, then that's a pretty incredible thing.